Hey everyone, this is Jeff Lund, the host of the Mediocre Alaskan podcast. Make sure you rate and review so more people can stumble upon what you have. In addition to the podcast, my wife and I have been adding a bunch more about living in Southeast Alaska on our website, themediocrealaskan.com. There you can read about hunting, fishing, foraging, gardening, our adventures building our home, and order my book, A Miserable Paradise. Thanks again, and enjoy this episode. Welcome back to the podcast. I have Robby Denning here today from Rokslide, which if you heard the name, then you know, of course, that he's from Rokslide and the home of forums and a blog and gear and podcast tips and tactics, anything you could ever want to know about hunting anywhere, pretty much around the world. Thanks for being on here, man.
Hey, you bet. Hey, man, you could do our intro. That was great. I forgot we had all that stuff.
Well, I live here in Alaska, and I haven't been on Rokslide very long, and I just thought, man, this is exactly how have I not really known about this? Like, this is a forum that's so useful. I guess I kind of got in this sort of, I live in Alaska, and I got some things figured out, so I don't need a forum, but man, this thing is great.
Hey, well, good to hear, man. We appreciate that. And you know, the same thing, it doesn't matter that I'm co-owner of the place. Dude, I learned so much on Rokslide. I mean, I really don't know how people can't be a part of a forum or something to stay kind of current. I mean, everything from just regulation changes to hunting issues to equipment. I mean, there's just always just so much out there. And it's one thing Rokslide's taught me, man, I don't know it all. Not even close. It's kind of like, a tough guy. There's always a tougher guy out there.
Right.
If you just keep looking. That's kind of what I've learned on Rokslide. There's always somebody out there who knows more about stuff than I do. And just if you can go into it with an open mind, man, you can sure learn a lot.
Right. Yeah. So the owner or the co-founders, that was Aaron Snyder, Dave Long, and were you a founder or are you just now a co-owner?
Okay, so it started with those two guys. Those were the main founders of it. Those were the two main guys, but they had tried to launch it before and just couldn't get it off the ground. And then they met Ryan Avery. Okay, so Ryan Avery is my partner now, co-owner. Got to be careful with that word partner these kind of days. Not that kind of partner, business partner. And so really it was those three. And Ryan was kind of behind the scenes, got it off the ground, got the homepage built. The homepage is where all our articles are. And then, built the forum. He had built about 50 of these things before and had a lot of good experience with it. And so they got it off the ground. And then David and Aaron were just bringing in riders, paying us with a little bit of ownership in the company, small percentages. I don't remember. There was 5 or 6 of us. I was just doing mule deer content for David. And then just like businesses are, some guys move on, they do different things and, things grow and, guys can't keep up. So eventually Ryan and I bought out everybody is how it worked. And so now it's just us two, has been since I think we bought out Aaron in 2014. So it's just been us two since 2014.
Nice. One of the things I really like about it is there's so much information and it's like you can just go on there and find it. Like there's so many, the hip thing now is to have some sort of class, and some of those things are excellent. Some of those are fantastic, and they provide you with a ton of great, useful information. But there's so much.
We've tried to keep everything free.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like all these master classes, they're awesome. I mean, we reviewed one for Mark Livesay, that Tree Line Academy, did that elk one, and one of our riders reviewed it. And so we got a subscription and dude, it was awesome. It really is. Guys want to go that direction, kind of have more like a private instruction. But we've gone the free direction, basically our sponsors are who pays for the site, and, the members just get to enjoy it. And, it's we've had people approach us about making it a paid for site, or at least part of it, like maybe a gold level membership, and with that you can get this level of content. But we don't want to do it that way. We've got great sponsors, and as long as we're able to continue to grow it that way, there's no sense in us turn around and trying to charge members for it.
Yeah. So you've been around for a while. You've been hunting mule deer. That's kind of your area of expertise. What have you seen as far as changing to content? because there was probably something or things that were out there. It was probably more in book and magazine form. And I remember getting Field and Stream and Outdoor Life. Those were kind of the iconic, those were the pages that you'd wanted to be in if you were a writer. And if you wanted to get information, that's where you got a lot of that stuff. There were some books out there, but then you have the internet. So how has that changed just how the outdoors work?
Well, it's made the information move a lot faster. So let's just say, I kind of came of age hunting, and probably I was born in 69. So 82, 80, 81, right around in there. I mean, I was going with dad before that, but Idaho wouldn't let kids hunt until they were 12. So 81 must have been my first season. And, back then you had, a couple of gurus that you followed. Jim Zumbo was one of them. He was in Outdoor Life, but he didn't just hunt mule deer. You kind of had to look for his mule deer articles. He may have maybe in the magazine every month, but there's no mule deer articles. So you had to, just kind of wait for that stuff. There just wasn't a lot of it out there. And there were books, Dwight Schuh's Hunting Open Country Mule Deer, Kurt Darner's How to Find Giant Bucks. There was a guy, I think his last name was Shell, wrote a blacktail book. I mean, I read them all because, you just go years with no new content.
Right.
And so everything moves slow is kind of the way to really think about it. Where now, what the difference is now is, I kind of say this tongue in cheek, but not really. Everybody can be an expert now because everybody's got a platform, whether it be Instagram, Facebook, posting on public forum like Rokslide or monstermuleys.com or something. So you have to have a good bullcrap antenna, but you can find a lot more guys to learn from than you used to be able to. Right. So that's how I look at it now, is it's making the learning curve shorter and faster for guys that just want to get into it, where, 30 years ago, you kind of had to have a mentor, and I was a reader. I always was, I still am, but not everybody is. And so people would pair up with a mentor, and, back in the day when everybody had a father, that wasn't that hard to do, but unfortunately, as fathers have become more rare in the home, it makes it harder for people to get into hunting. And so it's our 10th anniversary on Rokslide right now. And to relate to your question, we have a thread up right now, just kind of thanking our members, thanks for sticking around for 10 years, helping us to get here. And a lot of them are on there posting, kind of how they got to Rokslide, what they've learned from it. And dude, I've seen more than a few on there that are like, I had no hunting mentors. And I didn't have, anybody to follow. And so if you don't have a hunting mentor, you're not ordering Outdoor Life. You know what I mean? You're just not hunting. You're what's called the non-hunter. But Rokslide just brought them into the fold. Not maybe every single step, but they found us on the internet, and here's all these guys that are hunting, and this is kudos to our members. There's a lot of helpful members on there. So if they would engage with them on the forum, I got guys just today, man. I was talking about back bars for my bow. I've never put a back bar on my bow, and guys aren't just doing this because I'm the owner. They're like, oh, hey, dude, I got a back bar right here. Let me send you this, and you try it before you go spend $250 on a back bar, and you decide if that's going to be something that's going to help you. Well, you didn't have that kind of help a long time ago. We're just complete strangers be able to do that, and so that's what's different now too. Not just with mule deer, but hunting in general is you've just got so many more resources out there, and you can get into it a lot easier. And that's what those guys were saying on that thread, that these are guys that weren't even hunting 3 or 4 years ago. Now they're getting an elk, almost every year. Geez, I remember when I was a kid, there was like 3 guys in town that could get an elk every year. Yeah. There was guys that took them 25 years to get their first elk. Things came so slow. So that's how I see it change. Everything's sped up.
Yeah. I grew up in Southeast Alaska on Prince of Wales Island, which is, iconic for sick black-tailed deer and then black bear. But I didn't grow up hunting. My parents moved up when I was 5 from Colorado, and so they'd hunted some whitetail and mule deer. And my dad's first experience hunting blacktail was shooting one at the bottom of a clear cut. And it was just such an absolute miserable experience hiking it back up out. And my brother and I were like, this is not very fun at all. We're pretty young, and so we never really wanted to go, and so we just fished our faces off. But, I didn't start hunting until I was in my 20s when I was living in California. and which is talk about a place to start. But I went
Right.
to Bass Pro Shops and I bought one of those How to Butcher a Deer books. And I'm also looking around and I see this thing called the butt plug. I'm like, wait, what? What is
Right.
it? What is this thing? This is not in the book. I don't know. But that mentor thing is so important. And I don't think that it was, it was great that I had my dad. He was present. We did a lot of fishing. But it's so hard to get into something like hunting if you have nothing. Yeah, even if you do buy a book and a butt plug, you still have really no idea what's going on.
Dude, we got to explain what the butt plug is, or people are going to be talking.
Yeah.
You're talking about that little tool that you could ram up their butt and cut out all their anus in one fell swoop and not have to do it with a knife, right?
Well, I think that it is called a butt plug, right? Is that like the name of it or something like that? Or maybe that was...
Well, I can't tell if you're saying buck plug or butt plug.
But yeah, it was. So there was something about, cause you go up there and like you twist it until it snaps or clicks or something like that. Then you pull it out. Then you can tie off the lower intestine. That way, when you're gutting it, you don't get fecal matter all over everything. It makes total sense. But I just thought, wait, what is going on here? That's right.
This is
crazy.
Yeah, like the average guy is not going to go in there and buy that thing.
No, I think I had maybe seen it somewhere, or like someone sent me. I wouldn't have been sending me a picture because that was like pre-cell phone type stuff. But I thought, no way this thing exists. It's got to be like a joke, like a white elephant gift sort of thing. But
right,
yeah.
No, they work. But anyways, point well taken. That if you didn't have a mentor, you were just basically down at the hardware store or Bass Pro Shops, trying to figure it out. And, and some self-motivated guys can do that. Obviously, you did and everything. But now, I mean, I'm seeing guys that are going from not even hunting one year to the next year. They know how to do the gutless method, and, they're packing out their, they never drag anything. That blacktail you were talking about, did your dad make you guys drag that, or did he quarter it up?
He somehow got it on his back, but he didn't know how to make the backpack. Okay. So somehow he and we were just like standing up by the station wagon, and then so he did the whole thing. But I mean, I remember it being rainy and him just being steaming and just with anger and with frustration and just being worked out. And that was, was kind of the end of blacktail hunting.
Well, luckily he didn't scare you off, but that's my point. Now, I mean, you got guys that are, their second year hunting, they're out there with a Havalon knife and a Rokslide kill kit. They quarter that sucker up. They don't take anything they don't need to, and they pack it all out on their back. They're not, getting the meat dirty or any of that stuff from like traditional things, and so to me it's pretty exciting. And when we were off the air, we're asking kind of how things change. Remember, dude, I'm a positive guy about hunting. I mean, I think there's enough for everybody. I think hunting needs more support. I mean, I do. I think all that. Dude, there's a whole nother camp that wants hunting to shrink. And I'm not even talking about anti-hunters. I'm talking about guys that are just like, there's too many hunters. We don't need all these hunters. It's just messing everything up. There isn't enough animals, more people, less animals. There's guys that don't like this stuff. They want it to go back to the way it was, where it's hard and, a high barrier to entry to get into. And I just don't think hunting can survive if we're just that small of a force out there. And we got a couple of wins under our belt here this last couple of months with the cat hunt in Colorado off the top of my head, and I think the Washington bear. There was a couple of them we won, and that was just simply hunters turning out in mass. These state legislatures that don't they don't even think about hunting, and all of a sudden their email box is just buried. They can't even let their intern go home at 5 o'clock because they got all these people calling. Man, that's from strong hunter numbers. And I'm getting off on a tangent, but I'm just saying that to me, this is a good thing. This is a good thing that people can pick this up, and they don't just have to be, totally into it like Jeff Lund and Robby Denning, we'll go down to the hardware store and ask anybody to help us, that these people maybe a little more casual could get into it. Yeah.
I just Googled real quick. It's the butt out, the Hunter Specialties butt out.
There we go, dude. Well, now that we've clarified it, man, I just thought someone's going to get a hold of that audio or us talking about butt plugs, and we're going to pay.
Someone's going to Google the wrong thing in the wrong place. But I've never used one of those. Anyway, I think the important thing too, in addition with turning out those numbers, is also how we represent ourselves. And there's a lot of people who might not be hunters, but they're not anti-hunters. They're just non-hunters, and they kind of get it. And so if we express ourselves and we show the importance of it in a way that makes them maybe want to hunt or maybe not hunt, but at least if it comes down to a vote, it's a yes or no. Like, you know what, I think these hunters have their heads in the right spot. I think they understand conservation, and I don't think this law is good, so I'm going to vote with them. I think that's so important too, and I think the better we are at articulating ourselves, the more that we can contribute to positive things going in the future for us.
I couldn't agree more, bro, and I'm amazed at some of the guys that will argue the point of, they're like, hunters, it doesn't matter how we portray ourselves, people should just buck up and get used to it. And it's like, wait a minute, you can't act like that. You can't just expose people to hunting in a negative light. And I'm just talking things like, kill shots on public platforms and things like that. Or, you got to be careful because people don't always understand that stuff. I mean, half my family's almost anti-hunters. And I've had to navigate that for years, and I've navigated it by just being careful what I expose them to. And, I you and I are sitting here laughing about a butt plug and, all this other stuff. Man, I couldn't do that in front of them because they wouldn't understand it. They would think you were desecrating an animal. They don't understand it. You have to be careful. So, I think we got to be really careful the way we represent ourselves. We're in mixed company. And I always try to remember who's around. And I have to change my tactics a little bit depending on who's around. But I meet guys, I see them on Rokslide. Yeah, screw them. I don't even care. It doesn't matter. This is how I do it and blah, blah. I'm like, man, that's just turning people off. I remember I had a guy that killed an elk and he took all the pictures to work and he was showing his buddies and there was a lady there and I wasn't there, but he was telling me about it. And he was like, that old snag was just ripping on me about killing an elk and da-da-da-da-da and didn't like my pictures. And I thought, dude, what did you even show her the pictures for? You can't win somebody over like that. You walk in the office with your big bloody pictures and everything. We all get it. We know that elk's in your freezer. We know what it took for you to harvest that elk. We know, we get all that. That's no problem at all. But man, some secretary over there typing on her computer and, sees your bloody elk. I just don't think it's defensible. If people don't understand it, we just have to be careful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's 100%. Do you think that things are worse now or just more people have a voice? Like the portrayal of what hunting was in maybe the 80s versus now, is it more confrontational because we have the platform to be able to be confrontational? Like was there that underlying anti-hunter attitude back in the 80s too, or did people just not care as much, and it's coming more to a head more recently?
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plans shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
Well, I think there's a couple things going on there. First of all, there was a bigger percentage of the American population that hunted back then. And so we just had more implied support. And the vast majority of people were still non-hunters. That's who we're trying to win, or at least not piss off and send them to the other side. And so you had that just, it was more people tied to agriculture and rural living. That it wasn't such an obstacle to overcome to get them to understand hunting, even if they didn't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that part has changed. We're a smaller percentage of the population now, but to what you said, is it more confrontive now? Is it because people have a voice? Dude, I'm a Bible believing Christian, man, and King Solomon said it a long time ago. There's nothing new under the sun, man. There's
right.
People are people, and people are the same then as they are now, and it's what you said. Now they have a voice, and internet and Facebook and Instagram and all that other stuff. And so it might seem like it's a little louder, but remember, and this is why I'm into hunter numbers, we have a voice too. We have
right.
way more of a voice than we used to. And so I don't think it's really any different. It's just louder. You just the conflict is more visible now. Where I remember, I lived in, I went to University of Idaho for my first 2 years of college, and I lived in Bora Hall. And, it was kind of the demographic we're talking about. Most people on that hall, it was a men's hall, didn't hunt. Most of them were okay with it. They were never going to do it, but they understood I did it. And then me and my roommate, John Trone, we're killing everything: turkeys, steelhead, elk, and these guys all know it. Most of them were okay with it, but dude, there was some vocal people that were like, "You butcher, no good." And there was this one girl, her name was Summer, I remember, just hated us. And it's not that we were, I don't think, I mean, who knows? I probably wasn't very smart as how I was doing it, but I'd bring my elk rack up to my room, but it wasn't all bloody, it was just the skull cap. And so nowadays, maybe there is only two people that don't like it on the whole hall, but now they can get on, blow up Facebook, blow up your Instagram, call your boss, they do all that stuff. But the energy was still there. I still remember reading all that anti-hunting stuff in the early 90s and everything, and just thinking, how much longer can hunting last? And to be honest with you, I'm an optimist. I think it's doing pretty good.
Yeah.
Because you got to remember, 30 years ago, I was being told by my elders that, it's probably not going to be around, and like, well, the cool thing about it is we have a bigger voice now too. I remember when the Sportsman Channel first kind of got big. And I still cringe. I still think we got to be careful what we show. We got to be careful with that. But it also showed me just how big hunting is in the United States. Hunting is countrywide. It's every state. Back when I was growing up, I thought, only the West were hunters. I didn't realize how hardcore the whitetail hunters are, and everything that goes into hunting everywhere. Every locale.
Yeah.
And it's because they're people. People are people. Just what I said. They're gonna work hard for it and everything. And so in a way, it's kind of united us in a way. And so I'm not a skies falling, Jeff, to answer your question. I think that it's the same dynamics now as it was then. We may be a little closer to the edge of the cliff now, because those anti voices can get pretty big. But if we can all stay united, support causes and conservation and all this stuff, and not kill each other in the meantime, I think we can be pretty dang strong. There's 10, 15, 20 million hunters in the United States. That's a big, big group of people.
Yeah.
And, if we can represent ourselves well, I'm not talking about kissing butt, but I'm talking about, not turning these non-hunters against us. I think we can enjoy a lot of support for a long time.
Yeah. There's such a big difference between someone not liking what you do and someone not thinking that you should be able to do it anymore. And it seems like there's more of that sort of, I don't like this, and so you shouldn't be able to do it. And that's, calling the boss, and the shaming thing is gross. But we have such great examples of people who've been such great stewards. The Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation stands out as far as like it's pro hunting organization that's focused on habitat and species, like expansion. They've been responsible for so much good, And when you look at that, that's just something that's a non-debatable thing. If that is the example of hunting, or one of the better examples of hunting, how do you combat that? If you're an anti-hunter and you think, well, these are hunters that are putting their money where their mouth is, and they're doing something. They're not just shaming people who, no money is going toward anything else. You want to save the world, but you're not doing anything about it. All you're doing is complaining. And you have these people who are saving the species. And then we have these kind of common groups like a Ducks Unlimited or Trout Unlimited, and a Trout Unlimited person fits a different sort of stereotype maybe than a Ducks Unlimited, but it's still I want to enjoy this resource and conserve it and have it there. And we see that there's some overlap, and it's such a great thing to be able to see that and remind yourself sometimes when you're feeling really, really down about the future of these things, to think there's a lot of people who are willing to do a lot of things, put a lot of money and time into things, and make things better going forward.
Yeah, exactly, dude. And as you were talking about those different organizations, I was thinking something too. This is something else I've learned on Rokslide, is there's no perfect organizations. And I see these people get on Rokslide and they're ripping on the Elk Foundation because they didn't do this at the right time, or they're ripping on the Mule Deer Foundation because they're supported by Sportsmen for Fish and Wildlife and blah, 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 blah. And they don't end up supporting any of them really over just kind of some minor things. And it's like, we're cutting our own throats. You can criticize these organizations, but you're a better critic from within the organization than you are from without. So if you join that organization and then you try to make some changes, that's where the real power is. But to just stand back and say, I hate those guys because they just did this one-time thing, it's like, that's so dumb.
Yeah.
And there was a time in my life I think I was that way too. You just don't really understand. You think you're perfect, so everybody else is, and you only want to associate with those people. And that's not how it works. I mean, people are flawed individuals. They have people are not all good, and people are not all bad. And so when you get a whole bunch of people together in an organization, expect the same dynamics. And so, if you can find, like, back to the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, dude, they bought millions of acres of habitat. And I don't have my numbers all right and everything, but I mean, they've bought a lot of habitat that, it's not going to be a ski resort's not going to be there next year, or condominiums. They've conserved it. The Mule Deer Foundation has done that. The local Fish and Games, like our local Fish and Game office right here, has bought thousands of acres of winter range east of Idaho Falls here. That is protected now for into the future as far as we can see. And so that doesn't mean everything the Fish and Game does I agree with. In fact, sometimes they really make me mad. But the overall good that they do, I'd much rather hang out with a bunch of those guys and guys from Trout Unlimited and all that than a bunch of anti-hunters, because they don't understand it. That once nobody cares for these animals, and in the sense of we open our wallets and we pay for them, there's no support for it. That's why the North American model has worked, and virtually all these other countries in the world have hardly any wildlife unless it's tied to hunting. I mean, look at Africa. The places that have hunting have strong populations. The places that don't, it's just wiped out. And that might be a blanket statement, but for most part, guys would agree on that. And that's because they've put a value on that. And so these organizations that do that, and if you're looking for the perfect org, it ain't out there. But if your ideals line up with what they're doing, kind of their main focus and things, get behind them. Definitely get behind them.
I'm on the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation website right now, and in 1997, biologists released 7 elk into Kentucky, and today there are more than 11,000 elk, and they had their first elk hunt. I mean, that's just hunters. That's great. What a great organization. What a great thing.
You bet. And you know what? There's 11,000 elk in Kentucky, and there's millions of people that live out there, and maybe most of them are never ever going to go hunt them, but now maybe they know a hunter, and they know that he's helped pay for that, and so there's a familiarity with it, because I'm not so much worried about winning the non-hunters over. I just don't want to piss them off, and I don't say that from a sissy standpoint. I want them to be complacent, like not upset, like what. we're talking about ballot box measures that could outlaw hunting. I don't want them to turn out because I don't want them to view hunting in a negative. If they don't view hunting in a negative light, the chance of them turning out on a ballot initiative is pretty small. Because who votes on those ballot initiatives when they want to ban bear hunting or whatever? The crazies, right?
Yeah.
So 11,000 elk in Kentucky now from 7, all paid for by sportsman dollars. That's a win for us. They've done the same thing in Pennsylvania. I don't have the numbers on that. I don't know how close it is, but same thing. The thousands of guys that live out there that are applying for those tags, and now they can have a dream of coming west because now they're thinking about elk. Those are all good things, and that's what I'm saying. That's the camp I'm in. But I can get down Rokslide and show you a camp of people that are like, no, this isn't how it was when I grew up, and this is not how it should be, and hunting is ruined. Dude, I read it all the time.
Yeah. That's got to be kind of tough because I'm sure that when you got involved with Rokslide, you wanted to be able to connect people with information and bring value to their lives. How often do you find yourself like having to either, just take a deep breath, or worst case scenario, like block someone or kick someone off?
Often, more often than I would like to. And I've been criticized for helping hunters. I have a public land scouting business, totally legal. Have had it for 20 years. There's a few dozen of them out here in the West, as far as I know. Ours is the oldest one. And we'll help non-residents find areas. We can't go on and guide them or anything like that. Can't even meet them in person, because you have to be an outfitter to do that. And I've had lots of guys criticize me for that, like, oh, you're helping those guys. And I'm like, and we help 10 or 15 people a year. I mean, it's a drop in the bucket, but those guys still see no positive in it. And yet we've got hunting as a percentage of the American population shrinking, and those guys are okay with that. Man, I'm just not. I'm just not. So anyways, yeah, there's a lot of criticism out there. There's, Aaron Snyder, kind of the big guys that hunt a lot, get a lot of game. Guys are always criticizing them. Oh, they're shooting more than they can eat. Yeah, but they're shooting what is legal. They're tagging it. They're utilizing the meat through friends and relationships and, and stuff like that. These game departments have done these surveys. They've studied wildlife. They know how much is sustainable harvest. And yet there's guys that are just going insane. Just they are ruining hunting. I'm like, they're not ruining hunting. I mean, maybe that's not the way you would do it, but they're not ruining hunting. And so as far as banning people, usually we don't have to ban people. I don't just ban people because I disagree with them, but if they get out of line, they just get rude, they just get nasty, or they're just constantly stirring the pot. We've banned a few people over that, but part of the reason that I'm able to speak on both sides of a lot of these issues is because Rokslide's a diverse group of people, and I appreciate those guys. I don't have to. I learned a long time ago we don't all have to agree, and I appreciate their point of view because you got to listen to your critics. I learned that a long time ago. If you don't listen to your critics, they could be right, and you're going to miss something. And so I try to take in with what a lot of those guys say, but they've not moved me from the camp of I think more hunters are better, not a shrinking hunter population.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Sometimes I get the feeling that with more hunters, it's going to ruin any potential hunt that I want to do. It's like, well, why don't you just worry about like shooting your bow straight? Like let's not get crazy. Like you live here in Ketchikan, so you look at all those mountains that are just right there and open. If I don't get up there, then that's my fault. And someone coming up for a week, that's just one weekend that I might encounter someone, but I live here. So I've made this choice to be able to live here, and I can go and I can make whatever I want happen if I want to save and if I want to do it. And if I want to stay at home and complain, I can, but that's just a waste of my time and energy.
Right. And that's what I mean. I still think there's enough for everybody. I mean, there's millions of acres of public ground open in the United States for all kinds of hunting, and I want that to continue.
So you're primarily mule deer hunter, right? That's kind of been the looking back over your 30-some year career as a mule deer hunter. Do you ever wonder, not to rewrite history or have any sort of regrets, but do you ever wonder how things would have been different if you would have spent more time elk hunting, or if you would have it's always a trade-off. The better you are at one thing, you're sacrificing something else, or are you just totally content with all the stuff that you know about mule deer hunting?
Yeah, well, good question, man. I started off doing all that stuff. My dad was primarily a mule deer hunter, but he hunted everything. He had 4 brothers, and they were all born in the late 40s to mid 50s. So they grew up at a great time for mule deer hunting, and elk herds were smaller then, and they really got into the deer. But as the elk herds have expanded, they went in that direction too. But my dad still just kind of kept that affinity for big bucks. He always thought they were kind of the pinnacle and the hardest thing. And I don't argue with people if it's harder to get a big bull or a big buck. I mean, I really don't know. I haven't killed any big bulls. But what interested me was just how mule deer live, and they're much more secretive. Bull elk are kind of big slobber, and they'll be on one mountain one day, across the valley 3 miles, be on the other mountain the next day. I mean, they're just a whole different animal. And and I did all that. I've killed 4 elk with my bow. I think I've killed a couple with my rifle. And I don't want to make it sound like it was easy, but it wasn't as much of a challenge as it was finding big deer. Now, again, if I'd have focused on big bulls, it would have been. But I'm just the kind of person, dude, that I'd rather do one thing well than many things kind of half well. And mule deer were just, and part of this is because the seasons changed. When I grew up, you could hunt the rut over the counter, and now you can't for the most part, and in my home state, unless you can draw. And so hunting tactics had to change, and it got really hard, and I just threw myself into it, Jeff. And one day I looked up and I just thought, man, I don't have any interest in hunting elk or turkeys or steelhead. And part of it was, I got married and had young kids. My kids are all in their mid-teens now. And I had to earn a living. I mean, that was part of it. And so I had, I've always hunted a lot, 30 to 45 days a season per year. I had to make room for that, but still make a living. And so by letting all those other things go, Jeff, that allowed me to focus on deer. But, when I'm up buck hunting and I see a big old bull down in the bottom of the basin running around 25 cows, I mean, yeah, I get excited. They're really cool. But I just, when I did try to hunt both, there was a couple years I would archery hunt elk and deer at the same time. I never did well on either one. I'd just be getting the spot and scope set up on the ridge and looking for bucks, and a bull would bugle down in the timber, and I'm down there chasing him and lose him fucking 11 o'clock, hotter than crap, and the deer have all laid down. And I just finally decided, I need to pick what I'm going to do. And now here it is. I'm 52 years old, and I think I was about 24, 25 when I just said, I'm just going to hunt deer. And now looking back, dude, it was a good decision. I don't feel like I really missed anything at all. And as I get older, maybe I will go back to hunting elk if I get more time on my hands and stuff. But honestly, dude, right now, I want to hunt deer more now than I ever have. I mean, I just want to keep pushing myself as hard as I can. I'm getting older, my body doesn't do everything I want it to do. So I gotta think through that over the next 20 years. How am I going to navigate that? And it's like I still want the challenge. I don't want to give up yet. And if I get distracted with a bunch of other things, a little bit, just the way my personality is, I kind of feel like I was giving up.
Yeah, I grew up fishing, and so like a rainbow trout has always been the fish I want to catch. And people who didn't really fish are like, well, yeah, the rainbow trout's a rainbow trout. I'm like, no, it's not. It can even be rainbow trout from the same river, but I want to go. When I was in Arkansas, I wanted to fish for rainbow trout in Arkansas, and in Colorado and in Wyoming, it's just so different. And then it's never over. And that's a good feeling to have. And as much as you learn, you feel like you're not an expert, but you get to the point where you've practiced enough to where you're pretty good, but it still doesn't at all quench that thirst. And that's great. And I hope I never get to that point where I'm just thinking, well, I think I've had enough. I think I've accomplished all I can accomplish in this. I think that would be, my ego would be totally out of control. And my wife would have been, I'm sure she would have kept me in check before that.
Right. And that's funny you bring up fishing, Jeff, because, dude, I loved fishing. I mean, there was one summer, I think when I was 18 or 19, I fished every single day of the summer minus, maybe Sunday or something, like 5-6 days a week. I was just crazy fishing, and rainbows, they're around here. The river rainbows look like little footballs, and 5, 6, 7 pound rainbows, man, just fighting like crazy. I love that stuff, and I really miss it. And, I've done a little bit more the last 10 years just to take the kids fishing. I always have to kind of gear it to the kids. I'm fishing in some pond where the biggest fish you're going to catch is 1.5 pounds. But dude, my heart's in the river where the big fish are. And I love steelhead fishing. And, maybe you might see me pick that back up here next 20 years or something, because I really did love that. But again, it was just something I kind of had to let go if I wanted to put the squeeze on mule deer.
Yeah. The benefit of being a teacher is having that summer off and just fishing king salmon, river trout, and then when salmon come in the river, it's just nonstop. You can fish 90 days in a row if you want to. It's just unbelievable and never gets old. You get tired,
dude,
especially with the sun.
Your fish up there, yeah, gosh, and just that's the thing. I'd love to fish Chinook. I got friends that go up there every year and everything, and just back to what you asked me. Do I have any regrets? Like, they're not really regrets, but I'd love to do all that stuff if I could squeeze it in, but I'm still making a living for $5. So that's what I got to do. And, we need to tell people how you and I met. You and I met because you submitted an article to Rokslide, and a dang good article, I thought, on Southeast Alaska rut hunting tips.
Thanks.
And you bet, dude. And I've got it up in front of me. That article did really well for us. And that was the other thing too that kind of got me into mule deer hunting, dude. Is I got my degree in English. You might not know it by how I talk, but but in the written word, not the spoken word, the written word, because I did from an early age. I wanted to be an outdoor writer. And so, writing is near and dear to my heart. That's why I write books and articles and run Rokslide. Officially my title at Rokslide is editor. I'm in charge of all these articles that come in. And, so that's how we met you. And I thought that was a great article, man. And anytime you want to submit, the door's open.
Thanks, man.
That was great content.
Appreciate that. That's
probably really the only article we have in that aimed in that direction, rut hunting Sitka blacktails. I don't think I've published another one.
The funny thing about that is, like, I didn't hunt until I moved back here. I didn't start hunting 12 years ago, I think 10 years ago, something like that. But up here, because you have the 4 or 5 month season, you can really pack like multiple years worth of experiences in there. And so I just got to the point where I thought that I'd kind of figured some things out. And so late start, but you get 4 tags a year, and so you can really put some time in, learn a lot of stuff. And so I just started to figure something out. And then this year, after that article was published, I had like my worst rut year ever. And I thought, well, good, just keep you in check, just in case you were getting a little bit too cocky. But it just didn't work. It was crazy, but I ended up with a nice one with my wife. But only got. I punched 3 tags, so it's not a bad year, of course. But just kind of funny how that works.
What was the tough part about it?
It seemed like everything I was trying to do in that instructional didn't end up working out. It was like all the same sort of approaches, and you creep to the muskeg and then look at those edge boundaries. Don't go all the way into the muskeg, and paying attention to the wind and doing extra hiking to get there. But it just seemed that. Maybe it was the weather. Maybe it was my wife and I. So there was 2, and it was a little bit more loud. But we weren't seeing stuff, and we're in a couple areas that had some just great rubs. And then I don't know. It just didn't materialize as it had in previous years. And the one time we e-scouted a brand new spot, went there totally blind, and then everything worked out perfectly. But man, it was just one of those years. Sometimes you have that, and then you get that if you have like 4 good weekends, and the first one's just kind of okay, no big deal. I learned some stuff, and the next weekend it's okay. This is prime. This is it, and it doesn't happen. And all of a sudden it's like, man, we only got 2 weekends left. We're looking at the last 4 days, and that panic can kind of can settle in a little bit. But I can't imagine what it's like there for you guys for the those shorter seasons.
Right. Yeah. We really officially have a 14-day deer season here. So I hunt almost the whole thing. I'm so freaking worn out by the end of it that I almost hate to even say the word hunting. But you know what I've learned? You were talking about, that this year was just an off year for you. I've kind of learned with deer hunting, and it took me a while to get this through my head. You can be doing everything right, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. You just got to give it more time. And I've been through a few slumps in my career. I'm in one right now. I haven't touched a deer tag in 2 years. And that used to rattle me pretty bad, and now it doesn't. I know, You know what? You just keep plugging in the right variables in the formula, and it's going to work out. Because it's still, as much as I try to say it's not a game of luck, it's still you have to get lucky.
Yeah.
You can do everything right, and if things don't cooperate, you can still be wondering, man, did I do something wrong? And I've kind of learned, nope, didn't do anything wrong. It's just deer hunting. It's just like fishing. Sometimes you go out and everything seems perfect. You don't catch fish, and then the next day you're going crazy doing the same thing. The problem with deer hunting, dude, is, big game hunting compared to fishing and like wing shooting and everything, it's boring. I mean, you get, one shot a year, unless you're in a place where, like you said, you get 4 deer tags or something, but really, one shot a hunt is the goal and everything. So, you got these just days of I don't want to say boredom, but just no action. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And but I guess that's why we do it, because we know it can all come together in just seconds. It can come together. It can go from the worst hunt to the best hunt.
Yeah, I got I think it was a 1 point, maybe a 2 point Wyoming mule deer tag. So my wife and I were down there hunting, and it was pretty warm. And so we're just kind of hiking around, and I'm thinking, this is so different. There's no trees to hide behind. There's no clear muskeg stuff. It was so difficult to kind of figure it out. And I was just thinking, I just want just one chance. Just give me one chance. And then on day 4, I missed a buck. I thought that was it. I wanted my one chance, and then I missed, and then it's over. But then the next day it snowed, and it was amazing how these deer that did not exist the previous week were just up and moving, and it was crazy. From nothing at all except some lone forky that I missed, and then all of a sudden we're seeing, some smaller ones, but I mean, they're mule deer, so they're way bigger than the blacktail. And so I ended up shooting one, and I thought, man, I got 2 chances. I just wanted one, and I screwed that up, but I got 2 because it snowed, and the snow was the absolute key, and they were everywhere. It was just crazy.
Yep. And our mule deer live in comparatively open country compared to a lot of the other deer species, whitetail and blacktails. On average, mule deer are in more open country, and so snow can make a huge difference because you can see them.
Yeah.
And it's just weird. You can be in wide open country and still not see them, and then you get snow as a background, and especially right after the first snow and no sun has hit the bushes, and so even the tops of the bushes are white, not just the ground, but the tops of the bushes are white. That's when deer really pop, because they're the only dark thing out there, where the sun comes out for a morning and melts all that stuff off. Now it's like looking at one of those Beverly Doolittle paintings, which ones I'm talking about, with the horses that are hidden back in the trees, the Indian faces. That snow can work against you when it's had a little bit of melting, because now you're back to this mosaic, and you're trying to pick deer out of it when it's all white, like what you were hunting. Yeah, it's all of a sudden, man, there's a whole bunch of deer here. Did they migrate here? No, probably not. They were probably just here and just couldn't see them.
Just watching you walk by.
Yep.
Have you done much in Alaska?
Never been there, dude.
Oh, man.
Never been there. But it was a dream as a young man, but it's fading fast now.
Yeah, that's got to be on everybody's list, and it is. But there's just so many things to do; it's overwhelming. Like as a fly fisherman, you have to go fish for bonefish in Key West or Bolivia or something, right? Or Patagonia. But sometimes it just doesn't happen. Like I live in Alaska, and I've never hunted for moose. It just seems ridiculous. But
wow, yeah. When you guys get mule deer, I'll probably be up there. Although I would come salmon fishing or steelhead fishing. I probably really, that's what you would see me up there. But caribou, moose, sheep, all that stuff, it is all very, very cool. But dude, every day I'm chasing something besides mule deer. It bugs me. I feel like that's a day I could have spent on mule deer.
Well, I will tell you that there are mule deer sightings in interior Alaska now. They've migrated up a little bit, and this, I guess, is maybe the 80s when they started seeing some of those. So those big ones from central Canada have made their way up and over. So you said it, and there's there's documentation on this podcast that if Alaska has
oh my
mule
gosh,
deer,
dude, I
you now have to
back
go.
myself in a corner. I gotta go now.
Yeah.
You know what? That actually sounds cool, dude, to be hunting a new mule deer herd. So that wouldn't be all bad, and that's pretty cool to know. I've never heard that, dude. When I researched my book in 2015, I didn't really know how far north that mule deer existed, and Yukon. One of the parallels that go through Yukon was as far as they had been documented, and so this is the first time I've heard of them being north of that.
Yeah, I am almost positive that it's one of those things where they add it to the regulations just in case, but not because there's a viable population or something they would really expect. But I'm almost positive that it's even in the regulations. I'm not sure if there's a bag limit, but it's like if you happen to see one, it wouldn't be against the law to shoot one. But I'll have to get back to you on that one.
Wouldn't that be cool to like get the first big mule deer in Alaska?
That would be
If you see an article or something or a page out of the regs, man, take me a screenshot and send it over.
Actually, right here, Unit 12, at the bottom of Unit 12, it says mule deer and white-tailed deer may be harvested. See page 28 for more information. So that is Unit 12. It's upper Tanana White River area. That's right on the border of Canada, north of the Wrangell St. Elias. So, yeah. looks like you're
that is so
looks
cool,
like
man.
you're coming to Alaska.
Okay, bro.
That's funny.
Right here on the Jeff Lund podcast.
Yeah, perfect. Well, what do you got for a closer, man? Taking about an hour of your evening. What do you got?
Well, let's see. I get this question on a lot of podcasts, and a lot of guys ask me, is the future bright for mule deer, or they just tell me it's not bright. And I think the future for mule deer is whatever we're going to make it. And I think you always got to consider weather with a lot of mule deer populations, especially in these northern states. And we just went through a real slump, and I think that's why a lot of guys are down. And I just went through 2 years without punching a tag. It's the least mature bucks I've seen since about 93, 94, the last super hard winter that we had. But it's healing up now. It's healing up. And so I think some of these guys that are thinking, they're down for the count. I think they're going to be surprised if we get, I know this year I saw more good bucks on the winter range than I've seen since 2016. And we're going to, looks like interior West, going to have a decent winter this year. Hopefully have some spring rains because we don't want to go right back into a drought. But I think guys are going to be pleasantly surprised. And I think it just reminds me that for the most part, weather manages these mule deer populations. But yeah, number of tags can manage the number of mature bucks, because really most of the West is under bucks only hunting. But I think if guys are kind of down, just get back out there in the next, this fall, and I think we're going to see some more big bucks hitting the ground. And I remember feeling the same way several times in my career, and then bam, they come back. And get out and join the Mule Deer Foundation. They've got just an annual membership that's only $35. And if for nothing else, you get 4 issues of a really well put together magazine a year. And it's got a lot of how-to in it. It's got some great writers in it. It's got recipes in it. I mean, it's a good resource. And then beyond that, you're also going to get to see, all the challenges that mule deer are going through, but all the things people are doing to help them. And dude, mule deer are responsive. They do respond to management. That's why I don't think they're down for the count. Everywhere we try to manage them, for the most part, we get pretty good results. As long as we're taking care of the habitat and the weather cooperates and everything, we get pretty good results. And so I guess that's how I would end it right there. Is I think the future of mule deer is in our hands, and I think the future is bright if we want it to be. Get out, join the Mule Deer Foundation. They're not a perfect organization. None of them are, but they need our help. And they've got some great membership levels above that too. I'm a lifetime member myself, and I'm just totally believe in what they're doing. And they're good. They're a force for good. So that's how I'll wrap it up right there.
That's
Jeff.
good. That's perfect. As an add-on to that, my wife bought me a membership to Mule Deer Foundation, and with it came a raffle ticket. And with that raffle ticket, I won a 22.
See, man, it's just good stuff happening out there. You know, I can't guarantee everybody's going to win a 22, but you know, looky there.
Yeah, it was perfect. And then the winter 2022 issue, I have an article in it. The mule deer hunt that I was just describing, I'm in there. So yeah,
dude, mine is laying around here somewhere. I did not know you were in there. I got to go check it out.
Yeah,
what's your article on?
It was on that buck just wanting one chance and how everything was just falling apart until it snowed and things got better. And my wife and I both shot bucks within the same mile radius on the same day. It was crazy.
Excellent. And then you got an article in the Mule Deer Foundation. That is really cool, Jeff.
Yeah.
I got to go find my mag right now. I'm looking around my office in my chair thinking that thing's laying here somewhere. And the winter issue, it came out at the first of the year, right?
Yeah, it's got that really nice buck just staring. That's a buck that I would get so jelly-legged, and I'd probably just pass out if I saw something like that.
Is there snow on top of his head?
There might be. I know it's an all white all the way around it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I got it here. As soon as we hang up, I'm going to go find it, dude.
Yeah, there you go.
Article. You know, and that's the cool thing about the Mule Deer Foundation, dude, is, you know, you look in that magazine, you know, because you said your buck was a 2-point. Did I hear that right?
Oh, that's the one I missed. I ended up shooting a 4-point.
Great. So, you know, they're putting pictures of bucks like that in there. You'll see kids hunting in there. You'll see great big trophy bucks in there. You know, it's not a trophy mag is what I'm trying to get at. You know, there's that stuff's in there, but it's all encompassing. You know, there are a lot of good articles in there about, you know, when to harvest does, you know, when to limit tags, you know, migration hunts. I mean, that's what I mean. For $35 a year, even if you don't even care about the Mule Deer Foundation, I guarantee you're going to be a better buck hunter if you get that magazine.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, and now that I know Jeff Lund is in it, man, I got it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, thanks, man, for all that you're doing, for all that you're putting up with, and all the stuff that you provide through Rokslide and all that you're doing. Appreciate it, and thanks for coming on here.
You're welcome, Jeff. My pleasure.
Take care, man.